As I am making this video, we have just under a month until spring, when those of us who live in the more frigid parts of the world can start to think about getting back on our bikes. For we seasonal riders, there is always the feeling of reawakening the first time we hit that starter button and fire up our trusty steeds. But there is also a period of relearning as we once again start to retrain the physical and mental muscles associated with riding a motorcycle. It usually takes a couple of rides before we are back in sync with our bikes and the demands that navigating busy streets entails. Anticipating the annual rite of passage got me thinking about the attitudes and behaviors I have learned and adopted over the years to keep myself safe while riding. Before we get started, I want to remind you to please subscribe to the channel and ring that bell to be notified when new videos come out. If you like the content of this video, well, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you like to learn about things like travel planning, packing, and making your own videos, well, then please consider joining the Travelers Club, where you can hang out with a bunch of cool dudes and dudettes during our monthly Travelers Club Zoom meeting. Number 1, it is my responsibility to keep myself safe. For me, this is the main attitude from which everything else is derived. It is not the responsibility of other drivers to keep me safe. Should everyone on the road watch out for motorcyclists? Well, sure, but it is also not going to happen no matter how many signs I plant in my yard, bumper stickers I apply, or posts I make on social media. It is also not extra lights, high-vis equipment, or loud pipes that are going to keep me safe. These are, of course, things I should consider for making myself more visible, but just as thinking everyone else will look out for me, they are passive and require that the other guy is paying attention in the first place. We should always assume they are not. Ultimately, it is my skill and behavior that will be the greatest factor in determining if I come home safely after a good ride. Number 2, checking my ego at the garage door. Now, let's be honest, motorcyclists have a tendency to think of ourselves as badass MFers, right? We dress badass, we want our bikes to sound and look badass. It is just part of the culture. However, this tough guy or daredevil attitude can get us into trouble if we are not careful. Case in point, I'm sure we have all heard or read a fellow rider who brags about being able to double the posted speed limit on every curve. They might even tell you that you are some kind of wussy if you cannot do it too. This kind of attitude and comment does not make them a good rider. It just makes them more willing to take risk and unnecessary risks than the next guy. Don't get me wrong, I like a spirited ride down a twisty road as much as the next guy. But I also realize that on a motorcycle, traveling on public roads, I am vulnerable to the actions of others, as well as unexpected road conditions. While risk is part of riding that we all have to accept, my goals every time I go for a ride are to have fun and come back in one piece. I always try to ride within my personal skill level, making sure I have something in reserve for those unexpected occurrences that happen on every ride. Another part of checking my ego is understanding that other people are going to make mistakes and even do stupid things. In fact, I take this as a given. We all have seen those videos of some idiot who thinks that kicking a 3,000-pound automobile is a good idea, and the guy in this clip is just lucky to be alive. Of course, I have flipped off a few folks, but as a general rule, I try not to respond to idiots. My goal is not to make sure everyone knows I am a badass, rather it is to come home in one piece. If I was able to successfully avoid a bad situation, then I take that as a win and try to move on and enjoy the rest of my ride. Number 3, becoming a lifelong learner. Realizing that you don't know everything and you never will is one of the best behaviors you can adopt, not only for motorcycling, but also in life. This attitude ensures that you continue to expand your knowledge and skill level even as you get older. As a young man, I learned to ride from my friends who learned from their friends, and none of us knew what we were doing. So when I returned to motorcycling later in life, I wanted to make sure I learned to do it the right way. I have made it a point to seek out input and guidance from those who have more experience and knowledge about piloting a motorcycle than me. One of my primary sources of information has been Ken Condon, who has authored 2 books about motorcycling, Riding in the Zone and Motorcycling the Right Way, written for Motorcycle Consumer News and Motorcycle Magazine, as well as offering personal training in the New England area. I have attended his parking lot course twice, a 2-day training tour, and a couple of track days. With Ken's input, I believe I am much better and safer rider, but of course, I still have a lot to learn. Number 4, treat every ride as practice. In other sports, there is a distinct difference between practice sessions and game days. During practice, you hone your skills so that when it really matters, you are able to react to the unscripted challenges of the big game. As motorcyclists, we can take our bike to the parking lot and drill braking and swerving skills, which we all should do, but it will never be the same as riding in traffic or navigating the curves of a narrow mountain road. These are things we have to experience to master. With this in mind, I have adopted the attitude of turning every ride into a practice session. Every curve is an opportunity to refine my countersteering and trail braking techniques, and every intersection is an opportunity to improve my ability to scan and identify potential hazards. Number 5, maintaining a safe following distance. One of the best ways to keep yourself out of trouble is to make sure you have enough time to react, and that means making sure you leave enough of a gap between you and the cars in front. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory, right? If you are tailgating on a bike, well, I'm sorry, but you're a bit of an idiot. Now, of course, we all get frustrated at slowpokes who meander in front of us, but getting up on their ass will not make them go faster. In fact, it just places you at greater risk of being rear-ended, or more likely, of you rear-ending the car in front of you. Even if you are being tailgated, the answer is not to close the gap with the car ahead. Rather, it is to slow down and increase the gap available for more reaction time. Let the asshole behind you get mad or move over and let them pass. As I said earlier, it's not an ego thing, or at least it shouldn't be. Number 6, using lane position to your advantage. One of the most useful skills I learned from Ken Condon's training courses is the use of lane position. On our bikes, we have an advantage that automobile drivers do not have. That is, we can move within our lanes of travel, improving our ability to see, be seen, or avoid an accident. As an example, I was riding to work one day when I noticed the situation forming ahead of me. There was a bus traveling slowly in the oncoming lane as we approached a bend in the road. Behind the bus was an impatient driver who looked like he wanted to move out and pass just as we entered the corner. I was riding in the standard position just right of the center line, but as I saw the situation unfolding, I quickly moved to the far right of the lane, giving the passing driver enough room to make their ill-advised maneuver. If I had stayed where I was, even though I was in the right to do so, I would have been hit by the passing driver. You have the right to use the entire lane to your advantage. Number 7, every corner deserves your respect. This was another lesson I learned from Ken Condon's training classes. A large percentage of motorcycle accidents occurs in corners because the rider fails to navigate it successfully. Too much speed, not enough lean, looking at something on the side of the road are all common mistakes which can be disastrous. No matter how many times I've ridden the curve or how much I have practiced, I try to approach each bend with the respect it deserves and use it for another opportunity to practice my skills. As I approach the bend, I try to read it. Are there clues I can get from the way it disappears or how the trees are angled? Based on my reading, I start to slow by letting off a throttle, braking, or a combination of the two depending upon what the corner requires. Slow in, out with a grin, as the saying goes. I want to modulate my entry speed for a successful, smooth corner. Once I have my entry speed set, I look, continue to read the corner, and initiate lean by countersteering. As I travel through the curve, I maintain a light brake pressure, trail braking to maintain control and be ready for anything unexpected. At the same time, I am maintaining throttle until I see my exit or apex. As I am able to start straightening the bike, I slowly add throttle and release the brake pressure until I can move out with that grin. When done properly, everything is smooth and seamless, but like hitting a golf ball, it is rarely done perfectly. That is why I treat every ride as practice. So those are the 7 attitudes and behaviors I have adopted to help keep myself safe, while still having fun out there while I'm riding. I'm sure that there are many more that you folks can think of, so please add those in the comments down below. Thanks again, and ride safe, my friends.